Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Welcome my Hadith disciples, YouTubers and viewers upon the Sunnah and Athar to another exclusive episode of F.M.F 5 Minutes of Faida. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. One day, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he was asked, Kayfa nilta ma nilta? They said, oh Imam Abu Hanifa, how did you get what you have? How did you obtain what you have obtained? In other words, how did you become this famous, infamous, worldwide, renowned household icon of fiqh and also of controversy for those who liked him, those who didn't like him, etc. He was known, he was well known. He was famous and infamous. He had a great status. How many different statements do we have of the ulama, his contemporaries, let alone those who came after him, praising him, lauding him, and acknowledging their debt to his legacy. An-nas alatun ala fiqhi Abi Hanifa, is that the people are iyalun, they're like small children, they're like babies, people eating on his table spread, eating from what he left behind. So when he was alive, he was a legend, he was famous, he was infamous, he was well known, let alone when he passed on and the people became, devoted to his way, to his school, so on and so forth, and it became what it became today, one of the, if not the most popular of the four schools of thought. So they asked him, they said, Kayfa nilta ma nilta? How did you get, what you got? How did you get here? Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, Lam abkhal bil ifada wa lam astankif an al istifada. Lam abkhal bil ifadati wa lam astankif an al istifadati. He said two things, simply and beautifully, concisely. He said, Lam abkhal bil ifada. I became what I became by never ever being too stingy to give benefit, to teach, to spread. Wa lam astankif an al istifada. And I never ever was too proud to learn. I was never too stingy to give, and I was never too high, too uppity, too good, too better than you or him or her to learn from someone. Now we know in our culture, here in the United States and in the world today, it's the custom and it's the tradition to ask successful people, famous people, popular people, influential people, rich people, we ask them about the keys to their success, the tools of their trade. How did you become this worldwide person, this famous person? How did you reach to the top? How did you make it to the top? And in my humble experiences and the things that Allah has allowed me to do and allowed me to see, and the places that Allah has allowed me to go, and the barriers and the borders that Allah has allowed me to break down and to smash. Walillahi alhamd. I've been asked this question 100 times, and I don't even have that much, just a little. I have to be humble, but at the same time, I cannot be ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People ask me all the time, how'd you study? Where'd you learn? Where'd you go benefit? How'd you get it? Etc., etc., etc. So people that are way up there, they're always asked this question. Because people, first and foremost, perhaps they want to be successful. And people, secondly, even if they don't want to do it themselves, they're curious, human nature. And oftentimes people, they're bored with their own lives. So they want to hear about other people's lives that are exciting and intriguing, and so on and so forth. So this is something which is very, very, very old. Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah living over 1,000 years ago, dying over 1,000 years ago to this very day. So they asked him, how did you get what you have? And he said just two things, no third. Lam abkhal bil ifada wa lam astankif an al istifada. I never was too stingy to give people, and I never was too proud to learn. So think about this now. Every single chance, every opportunity to give dawah, to give a class, that is review, that's revision. That's another person making dua for you. That is another person being your student, being your disciple. That is you remembering the hadith, remembering the ayah, remembering this, passing on the fatwa. So you benefit by benefiting others. And there's never a person that's too young for me to learn from, or a person whose skin is too dark for me to learn from, or a person whose skin is too white and pale for me to learn from, or a person that's too old for me to learn from, or a person studied here in Egypt, he didn't study in Medina, so I can't learn from him. Or he studied in Medina, he didn't study in Egypt, so I can't learn from. That didn't exist. And the mindset of this successful imam, the cliquish gang mentality and the pride that people have of learning and benefiting from people.